And hello again from WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. My name's Josh Manning. I am Deputy Managing Editor for Assignment. Had to think about that for a second. For Assignment at the Western Journal. Joining me today on my left is Michael Austin, newly promoted supervising reporter.
Yes.
As of today, I think. Was it effective as of today or Friday?
I think it was Friday.
Friday afternoon, something like that. Anyway, congratulations to Michael. And of course, on my right, intern Tara, who will soon not be an intern anymore, but will be a full-fledged staff member and on the assignment team, which I get to run. So she is, and she's been a very good intern.
Yes.
And we will enjoy having her on the team. Thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon. We got three things we want to talk with you about today. First off, Texas Democrats and their flight to DC and what happened while they were in DC. Something terrible happened. Oh dear. We will additionally be talking about an interesting deep state tie-in with a school board in the United States and how it got called out in the middle of a school board meeting. But kicking us off will be Michael Austin. Michael's going to be talking about really a fact check that we just put together on NPR. NPR was trying to take down some conservatives, and we have actually produced a fact check on them, and it's pretty significant. Michael, take it away.
So the NPR story, they're basically claiming that right-wing news sites, their primary target is the Daily Wire, but also The Blaze, Breitbart, and the Western Journal gets named.
Imagine that.
They're claiming that right-wing news sites, all they do are repackage mainstream media's stories, remove a bunch of context, and then put it out to help serve their agenda. And then they're also saying that we're using outrage to help sell these stories. So they don't do as well with CNN because CNN's not looking for outrage. They're looking to give us the facts.
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are.
And so, they said we're using outrage as a business model. And then they specifically say in the article, right after mentioning us, that these sites publish aggregated and opinion content aimed at invoking outrage and have been generally more successful at it than legacy news outlets.
Really?
So they do give us those props. But it's the notion that we're the ones creating the outrage. Like, the only reason our stories invoke outrage is because the left is doing so many things that are so outrageous.
Outrageous.
NPR is supporting so many things that are so outrageous. And for them to just sit there and say that we're the only ones doing this, well, that is absolutely ridiculous. So I pulled some headlines that we're going to show you guys from NPR articles that were, that NPR ran over the course of the past few years that kind of shows that they're the ones using outrage as a tool to get more clicks. And well, I guess we'll show some quoes from the story first, just kind of.
Well, that's outrageous to me, I'll tell you.
But we had some, so if we could put up the headlines, basically all of these stories that NPR has put out over the past several years during Trump's time in office have just been how Trump is so racist. Trump's racism.
Bigoted.
Trump is bigoted. Trump is, how is he promoting racism from the presidential office? And none of them are true. All of them are taking quotes from Trump out of context, and they're trying to push this particular narrative that has been shown time and again to be completely false. And it's all to just further, and don't know what's going on with the screen right now. Okay, so we're having some technical mishaps.
So how many did you find off the top of your head?
Oh, man. So
you
literally
were outside my office and you kept saying, oh, well, I found another one. Or
as soon as I wanted to start putting this piece together, okay, the first thought that came into my mind was, wait, we're the ones who try to benefit from outrage? And so I did a quick Google search of NPR Trump racism, and I found, and here we go. These are some of the headlines I found. So White House defends Trump use of racist term to describe coronavirus. That term was the Kung Flu. Which is hilarious and
wildly racist.
Doesn't seem racist in any way.
Racist.
Go back where you came from, the long rhetorical roots of Trump's racist tweets. So that's Trump saying, go back where you came from if you don't like it in America. If you don't like it here,
leave.
Yeah, that's
leave.
It's
or
nothing
at least
to do with.
leave DC. That was the other thing that was so funny about that when that whole controversy broke. It's like, no, he doesn't think that people who were born here need to go back to other
that's
countries.
absolutely not what
they
he's
need to
saying.
leave DC. They need to get out of the business of serving the country.
And, Trump has so many minorities that support him, and he supports so many minorities. Like the idea that it's like he wants them all to go back home rather than he wants people complaining and that hate this country to leave is ridiculous. And so, we had those headlines. And then there are some quotes that I wanted to pull up from the story itself that really kind of reveal where the mind is at for the writer of this article. So this is talking about the Daily Wire, but also about the Western Journal and other sites. The site produces little original reporting, but instead mostly repackages journalism from traditional news organizations with a conservative slant. Then we got the next quote coming up. But the Daily Wire has turned anger into an art form and recycled content into a business model. And so just talking on that point, before we move on to this last quote, that we do repackage a lot of content, but we're not removing content.
So do they, using the AP and Reuters.
And that every outlet does that. But the important distinction here is, they claim that we are repackaging content and removing context. What's actually happening, we're taking the stories that they're running with and we're providing the important context that they don't want to give to you because they don't want to support a conservative angle.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when I say they, I mean the establishment media. They pull from Reuters and AP. That's the only. In fact, those of you who are out there, this is maybe kind of inside baseball. You might not know this. That's the reason AP and Reuters exist. Is for people to recycle their content.
Yeah.
That's the reason they exist. And that's the way that newspapers and the mainstream media actually exist. That's how they're able to do it.
And they have the audacity to claim like, oh, we're just misleading people and they're the ones with the great hard-hitting journalism. This third quote that I pulled from this story is just, it's an example of them not doing their due diligence. So an NPR review of stories on the Daily Wire about COVID-19 pandemic over the past 2 months found numerous stories about potential side effects from the COVID-19 vaccines. Well, those seem like important stories to report on. But none that portrayed the scientifically demonstrated efficacy of the vaccines. So they're claiming there are no Daily Wire stories that they found in their analysis, their hard-hitting analysis, that claimed that COVID vaccines had any sort of effectiveness. I went on Google, I typed in Daily Wire vaccine effectiveness, and I found at least 6. The only reason I didn't find more is I didn't keep looking. 6 stories where in the story it says the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is 94% effective. The Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective. Like, the Daily Wire has said this time and time and time again, and yet seems like the NPR must have missed that in their analysis.
They didn't miss it. They're just lying about it. They are straight up lying about it. And NPR, if you want to know why people like the Western Journal, like the Daily Wire, like the Daily Caller exist, it's because you lie. It's because you have spent years, decades lying to the American people. The establishment media started this garbage with Vietnam. They are the ones who lost the war for us. They were lying to us then. And they kept lying and have continued to lie, and they still are. And the only reason people get anything close to the truth in this day and age is because of new media like the Western Journal, the Daily Wire, and the Daily Caller.
And Tara, you're one of the newest people to our newsroom, so you're not quite. You haven't had all of the time in newsrooms, all the times looking at all these biases from the point of view of people that actually work in news. So what do you think about this? Like the fact that they're coming after us, but then they're claiming that legacy news like CNN, New York Times, that they're all just completely fine.
Well, I think it's ridiculous because part of how I stayed at least informed is I actually followed the Daily Wire pretty closely and heavily and listened to Ben Shapiro probably since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he very openly, since the beginning of the pandemic, has been very pro-mask, very use caution, be careful, openly for the vaccine. I think he even called it some great form of technology and there's no reason we shouldn't shouldn't be getting it. So to say that his platform that he's kind of created and curated over time is just completely against the vaccine, that's a bold-faced lie. It's not hard to find Ben Shapiro's tweets where he's like, go get vaccinated, or you should have the freedom to get vaccinated. Like, he's very, very open about it. He's encouraging, but he also does maintain that, that idea of, well, you make the decision, but you should do it.
Yes. And one last point before we move on to the next topic. One of the biggest things they claim we do is misleading story selection. So we only select stories that, particularly push our point of view. I guess the NPR wasn't doing that when they decided not to cover the Hunter Biden scandal right before the 2020 election. They chose instead to cover stories about Joe Biden's dogs. So I guess that's not story selection, but everything we do here is. So
Major Biden biting somebody, a bigger story than Hunter Biden having. Well, I mean, they showed his sexual escapades in a room with stuffed animals, and I mean, you can make out of that what you want.
Yeah.
But normally younger people who have those, all right.
The cycle continues. Stories, outrageous stories continue to happen.
Yes.
NPR, we expect a correction and an update.
Yes.
All right. Tara, that was good analysis. I want to toss it to you. You've got a story. We know about the runaway Democrats, the Texas runaway Democrats. Turns out when they ran away, they actually got something.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not good news for them.
They didn't come back with souvenirs from D.C. Instead, they came back with COVID-19.
No!
Wow. So, as we've seen, the narrative with COVID-19 is that now Delta's out there and we're going to kill Grandma 2.0 and it's just going to continue and continue. 5 of them came back and they've been testing positive for COVID-19 after fleeing the state. And of course, because they are openly liberal and super vaccine friendly, they're going to let you know that they've been double vaccinated over the roof and actually let all 3 different vaccines compete in their bodies for dominance.
We're not positive that's recommended, folks.
Yes,
Yeah.
not positive it's recommended. So here's their picture from their field trip. Obviously smiling. I don't think they were smiling.
Happy, full of so much potential.
Yeah, I don't think they were smiling as they came back when they started to get the sniffles and thought it probably wasn't allergies.
Yeah.
But one of them was Trey Martinez. They're from San Antonio. And of course, they highlighted their vaccine status. They said, "Today, I received a positive COVID-19 rapid antigen test result. I'm fully vaccinated and had tested negative on Friday and Saturday." So that was that first statement. And of course, they all followed suit. And then another rep, which was Cecilia Israel from Austin, also said, "Let this be a reminder that COVID-19 is still very much among us.
Can strike anywhere.
With infection rates on the rise and more contagious variants spreading nationwide." And it's like, why are you acting surprised? Because America wasn't unaware of these variants last week.
Yeah.
They're acting like, and out of nowhere, out of the darkness, the Delta variant emerged.
Well, one of our assignment editors, Joy Chester, he's been looking at a lot of this COVID news, and in his opinion, it looks like they're trying to start, the COVID campaign 2.0. The way they're talking about this Delta variant, they want to shut everything down again. So yeah.
Yeah, and folks, we're not rejoicing that anybody's sick, just to be clear.
Yeah.
We are, however, enjoying the idea that a bunch of people did something really stupid. They played a stupid game, and they've come away with a stupid prize. And it's that much more delicious in that, some of them have been vaccinated. So that kind of blows out of the water this idea that if you get the vaccine, you're safe.
Yeah.
And they were all maskless. They're not playing by the rules you have to play by, folks. They're not playing by the rules we have to play by. I would bet if that was a chartered plane, I would bet they didn't even have to show identification. But they certainly weren't wearing masks. We have to wear masks when we're on board.
Yeah.
When we're trying to fly anywhere. Folks, it is a different set of rules for the elite than for us. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and they go on and they had this stroke of political brilliance, which is shocking as a Democrat. So not only are they going back and being like, "Oh, this is so dangerous," and "Wow, look what happened," they're also claiming to be martyrs now for the voting effort. So they're saying, Most importantly, and this is Cecilia talking, most importantly, I hope this instant highlights the sacrifices we're willing to make for the cause of democracy. I would not change anything to protect the right to vote. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is one of her tweets.
Oh my
but
gosh.
they've just totally U-turned on it and are like, oh my gosh, you know what? We were actually forced onto the plane. We were forced to run away from our jobs. Like,
They made us do it. Yeah, so, you know, if the roles were reversed, that's always a fun game to play. Colbert would be covering this, and he would be delighting in how the Republicans who advanced a Jim Crow agenda using a Jim Crow quasi-filibuster system had come away with the just results of their depravity, which is COVID. Folks, it's sad that they're sick. I mean, I had it. It's not pleasant. It's you know, you had it. Didn't you have it?
Yeah, I had it. Yeah, it wasn't fun, but you know, I wasn't gonna die.
It's not fun, but the thing is, like, these people have been demonizing people for like the past year and a half, being like, you can't get married. If you do get married, make sure it's only you, your spouse, and maybe your neighborhood dog watching. And then you can't visit grandma. People were in the hospital dying alone. They had no visitors. So
here's a question I haven't heard anybody ask. I wonder how many innocent people will contract COVID
because of
from
that.
contact with these people. Because they decided to leave the state.
Look, guys,
and perpetuate a Jim Crow system, the filibuster.
Look, the whole point of this, the reason that they can do it but other people can't, is because they're fighting for all of these important voting rights that everybody actually already has, and are not under attack. So
somebody has to fight for the rights you already have that are not threatened, folks.
Yeah, but that's the most ridiculous part of this to me, is not even the hypocrisy. It's more that they're going to these great lengths to fight for something that like everyone has and is not under threat. If anything, all the laws being put into place are only protecting those rights further.
Yeah. No, this is true. So. Shifting gear, let's keep thinking along the lines of how the elite function, versus the way the rest of us function. Yeah. Americans seem to be waking up to that. I think that will ultimately be Trump's legacy. Not so much that he got an enormous amount done for the country. He did get some good things done, especially economically. But what he really did was he revealed to at least half of the Americans out there who didn't realize it, we are loathed and despised by the elite. I mean, we are loathed and despised by them. And the deep state is actually a thing, and it works against us. And the deep state is showing up in the most interesting of places, folks. We found a story. Actually, Tara's the one who found this story. We found a story that is very interesting. It's video. We've got several videos from a Rochester County school board meeting. Now, if you haven't, this is not Loudoun County, this is Rochester County. They've been having some of the same problems with CRT and wokeness and all of that garbage. Well, some citizens were finally fed up with it. They showed up at a school board meeting, and we've got 3 or 4 clips here. The first one I want to intro for you is a gentleman who was seriously ticked off. And he wanted to address cancel culture in front of the school board and in front of a packed house that had a bunch of upset parents in it. He's wanting to talk about cancel culture and retribution for those who are not woke. Let's run clip 1, please.
School board members, I look across our community, across this room, and I see a tremendous polarization. Students and teachers, parents, and community members are afraid to voice their true opinions in our schools for fear of docked grades, threats to job security, and retaliation against their students and businesses. A singular social political narrative is being pushed, and anyone who dares to question it or speak against it is being attacked and demonized. Fellow citizens, this is not inclusion, this is not tolerance, this is not freedom. This is not American.
So you couldn't see it there. There are some spots in those videos where they turn back and actually show the audience, and the audience is packed, and they are thrilled with this. But I think, and if you couldn't tell, that thing he had in his hand was actually a Dr. Seuss book. He brought a Dr. Seuss book just to tick off the school board. So, I mean, Tara, I think Dr. Seuss guy there is speaking for a whole lot of us. This, like, getting canceled, being punished for saying something the majority don't agree with, that is not American, is it?
No, it's not American at all. And the thing is when we're sending our students to school, we're entrusting those teachers just to be like, hey, this is what happened. These are like basic things. Here's y equals mx plus b, you know, those like really staple things we've all learned. But instead they're coming home and going, oh, mommy and daddy, I need to get vaccinated and I don't know really what gender I am and I might be on a spectrum. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't remember that curriculum.
Yeah, I don't either. So our friend Dr. Seuss guy, he went on from this point. Pull soundbite 2, please.
I stand here tonight as one citizen representing thousands who are taking a stand against racism in any form, no matter what it may be labeled. Let me clarify that in no uncertain terms that those who oppose critical race theory and the organization called Black Lives Matter are not racist. We do not see ourselves as being better than anyone else. We value all lives and the rights of every person, whether or not we have the same level of melanin in our skin.
So, Michael, you've done a lot of work on CRT.
It's made me very popular.
Yeah, I'm sure very popular.
Yeah.
Maybe you and Dr. Seuss guy can get together for a drink afterward.
I'm probably gonna need one. Yeah.
But I think he is right, though. This idea that if you say all lives matter, or you stand up for blue lives, or you say, hey, we should have a colorblind society, I think he's right. Now you are treated as a racist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is more of a messaging war, and the left always wins those little messaging wars. And right now, you know, those keyword phrases, they mean a specific thing to a certain group of people and a specific thing to another group of people. And those two definitions are conflicting with one another. So, you know, to a liberal or to even just someone in the mainstream that doesn't hear a lot of political news, Black Lives Matter, there's nothing wrong with that. So if you have a problem with that, well, obviously you're a racist. Yeah. And they keep beating people over the head with this narrative. They keep pushing it to the point where now, all conservatives are racist. How else would Trump get elected? So
it's an interesting thing to me, Tara, that over the weekend, last week we saw crazy stuff happening in Cuba, very exciting things happening in Cuba. We also saw BLM come out and support the regime, essentially. But what you also saw was conservatives open their arms and say, hey, if you can make it from Cuba to here, we want you here. We absolutely want you here. Tara, that doesn't sound like racism to me from conservatives.
No, it's not. And it's just how the narrative gets split, because with the whole idea of conservatives not caring about minorities and things like that, it's like, who really doesn't care about minorities? Because to say that what they're going through, these systemic governmental abuses, is because they want the COVID vaccine, it's that blew my mind. So they're completely disregarding the actual issues these people are facing. And the second thing is that Black Lives Matter, time and time again, we've been saying it for like a little over a year and a half now, is that it's not just the idea that Black people matter in society, as many of Americans already agree with. It's that they have these communist thought leaders who are trained Marxists leading this organization, buying multi-million-dollar homes, you know? So they're not actually doing anything to improve what they're talking about.
And it's not a secret that they're communists.
No.
Especially
not at all.
with the statements on Cuba that just came out, we know it for a fact. And just quickly to speak on that idea that they do not care about all minorities, you know, I've interviewed the founders of this group called Every Black Life Matters a few times, and essentially they're the conservative version of Black Lives Matter. And the whole point for their existence and their name is when confronting someone who says Black Lives Matter, you go up to them and you say, well, does every Black life matter? Do all the Black lives being affected by, you know, poor educational systems, not having access to school choice? Do all the Black lives aborted by, you know, Planned Parenthood, do those lives matter? And it goes on and on. Do Black lives that are, you know, stuck on welfare because of all these democratic policies seeking to help out, but really just enslaving these people on the public dole, do those Black lives matter? And so, no, they don't care about Black lives. They care about the minorities that will push their agenda. And all the others, well, we can just forget that they even exist.
So that's good. So now to give you an idea of the sort of us versus them that was happening in the school board meeting, they brought the board meeting to order, and immediately some of the folks who were in the audience suggested that they say the Lord's Prayer. And this is what happened.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
And there go the mics. Keep rolling, guys. They cut the mics on them. Oh, no, go back. Well, they cut the mics on them, and then that wasn't enough. They cut the mics on them, then they cut the feed.
Yeah.
They literally cut the feed so that you couldn't hear them praying once they cut the mics.
Yeah.
Then they cut the feed so you couldn't even see them praying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is behind that, Tara?
It's this entire idea that you can't have any other loyalties beyond the state, beyond the government. It's the idea that you are completely reliant upon yourself. Any idea of biblical principle that God created man and woman is completely rejected because, as we've seen, the left is saying that there's now like this multitude of genders you can be. Every single biblical principle they're against, and they don't want to show that or kind of show like, oh, these people are united. I wonder what's uniting them, because as we've seen over the past year, we're supposed to care when people are united, but not when they're united in prayer.
Yeah, and this idea, I agree with the separation of church and state. I don't think we should rule, as Christians over everyone else. Mm-hmm. And the Bible certainly doesn't tell us to do that. But what's really upsetting is that, it's not just religions. Those aren't the only worldviews you can impose on people. There are all sorts of other secular worldviews that you can impose on people and that you can use the state to do so. And unfortunately, due to the way we define religion, we don't have necessarily constitutional protections against that. And so you have all of these people pushing these worldviews, pushing these ideas about what is moral, what is right, what is true. You have all these people who are secular, who do not accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, pushing their definitions of those words on our kids, on us. And that's what's led to all of this CRT madness. That's why this guy has to speak out, is because the state is imposing its own new religious worldview on everyone. And unfortunately, since it's not Christianity, there's no laws against it.
So remember the clip that you just saw where they cut the mics for them while they were praying, and then they cut the feed. I want to show you what happened about 30 seconds before that happened.
We should really welcome.
Nope, not that one. Not that one. Do we have the one where they opened the meeting? I don't think we have that one. So what happened 30 seconds before they cut off the people praying was they opened the meeting, and the chairman of the meeting urged everyone who could not be there to watch online. And gave the web address. So we would love to have you here. It would be wonderful to have you join us. We want you watching. Beep.
Interested members of the public who are not present are welcome and encouraged to view this meeting remotely at youtube.com/ISD535, where the live stream video may be found.
So that was about 30 seconds before they then cut that live stream because people had the audacity to pray. Okay, I teased this to you folks with a reference to the deep state. I was not just lying. My favorite part of this whole thing was when our buddy Dr. Seuss Man got up, and he actually informed the audience about, a CIA connection on the board that not on the board, in the school district that I guess a bunch of people didn't know about. Let's go to Dr. Seuss Man.
We should really welcome our new superintendent. It's nice to see you back in the United States of America again, sir. Wherever you toured, right? Where did you go? Well, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, anyway. You were with the CIA? Or, yes, you were, sir. Does everybody in that room realize that we have some deep state characters right here in the room with us? And we actually have an FBI guy, too. So you weren't just one, but two different agencies. And I don't think everybody's aware of that, because when you hired this guy, you did it on Zoom meeting. Right? You should have had the public vet this character and find out who exactly he is. I mean, I don't know.
So, part of the problem with the state is that when you empower it, its tentacles wrap themselves around you and sprout into your life in unbelievable places. I got to tell you, having someone affiliated with the CIA as my school superintendent, my district superintendent, that's a fairly unexpected thing. I want to read you quickly who he is. Kent Pickell. He notably spent 5 years, and I am quoting now from, well, gosh, I don't have the news source on here. I'm quoting from Med-City Beat. There it is. Pickell notably spent 5 years working in Washington, D.C. as a White House fellow assigned to the director of the CIA, special advisor to the Deputy Secretary of State, and special assistant to the Deputy Secretary of Education. So there you go. You've got a spook in there as your school superintendent. What the heck is happening? Is anything local anymore, or is the deep state just absolutely everywhere?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of this situation, why he exactly, if he's from that area or, what the whole situation with that is. But what more disturbs me is the fact that, they held that hiring, all the stuff with that over Zoom. And so, yeah, if the public had any trepidations about this character being in that position, they wouldn't have been able to know about it. They wouldn't have any way to speak out against it. And so, yeah, that's a little troubling to me. It's hard for me to try to draw too many connections to say what that means, but I do know that there'd be a lot of parents that probably would not be happy with it if they were asked directly. So.
Well, I think it's awfully convenient that right as when everyone seems to be really caring about what's going on at these school boards, they're completely shutting down the marketplace of ideas. So even when we were just talking about them shutting down prayer, it's like, yes, we want schools to not have like really a religious influence if they're public schools, but it's like you're not even having a full conversation when you're cutting off the live stream of someone talking. It's like if you're at a school board meeting and you're allowing the public who is allowed to be religious come in and then they aren't allowed to talk anymore.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. And I think that Zoom meeting with the CAA proves that.
Yeah.
It is just remarkable to me, the bigger the government gets, the farther its tentacles reach. And folks, it is gargantuan at this point. There is nothing in your life that isn't touched by the government.
Yeah.
You watch TV, the FCC is involved in that. You check stuff out on the internet, the government is involved in all sorts of back-end things there. You want to go for a walk in the park? Well, the government has regulations on that. Interested in breathing some air? The government regulates that as well. Interested in polluting a little bit of air? And by polluting, I mean mowing your lawn? Well, the government regulates that as well. Yeah. Want to go to Walmart and buy a loaf of bread? There are regulations on that too. There are regulations on top of regulations on top of regulations. And it turns out there are bureaucrats on top of bureaucrats on top of bureaucrats to the extent that they are showing up now in local school boards. Folks, that's it for us today. Thank you for joining us. We are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to click the subscribe button. After you click that button, you'll be able to click the little bell next to it. That's going to make sure you get notified every time we go live. Also, if you feel led to support the Western Journal in a more direct way, we would be thrilled by that. You can go to westernjournal.com/join. That's westernjournal.com/join. There are several options there for partnering together with us to help finance the sort of research and in-depth reporting, independent reporting that we do. Folks, we're not owned by a company. We're not a conglomerate. We don't have a billionaire backing us. It's just us. It's just us. And because of that, we're not beholden to anything but the truth. And so any support you can give us, we would appreciate. For Michael, for Tara, for everybody at WJ Live and the Western Journal, I'm Josh Manning. We're going to see you next time.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you are joining us. Thank you so much for doing so. I actually want to say aloha, but, as you can all see, we are dressed themed for our beloved editor-in-chief, George Upper. It's his birthday today, so we're just going to throw that out.
I'm George Upper, editor-in-chief of the Western Journal, and we have more bounce in Arizona than all y'all combined.
More bounce.
I'm just going to give you a minute to think about that. Deputy Managing Editor Josh Manning is here with me with his hat.
And on my right is Brett, whose last name I now can't remember.
Kershaw.
That's it. I knew it. I knew it. Like the knife brand.
A little
like
suspense there.
The only man who knows Brian Chai's title is Brian Chai, and it is
The Grand Pooh Bear.
Grand Pooh. That's
Grand
fine.
Poobah.
He's director of something.
No, Grand Pooh Bear.
Oh my gosh! Oh no! Oh no! I love this number. Right?
The pep and the step at the end.
That's show he's okay.
And if you're thinking that this shirt makes me look like a hippopotamus on camera, I'm right there with you. Reminding you as always, if you like watching hippopotamus